I'm like trying to figure out the right way to phrase it. Like, you are Queen now, right? Like, you are this new era of what Queen is. And I listened to the live album, the most recent that came out. Fucking incredible.
I was so excited that we got to put that out.
So fucking good.
Thanks.
You should be so proud.
Thanks. I am. It's nice to have something to sort of commemorate the 10 years that we've been working together, you know, something on that you can listen to.
I can't believe it's been 10 years.
That's crazy.
I know. Maybe more, maybe 12, maybe 11. I don't know, something like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's on and off, obviously. Like, we've done a handful of tours, and they're only usually about 6 to 8 weeks at a time. So it's not like we're constantly on tour. This is something that's funny, like friends and fans and family, the 3 Fs. Every time I'm like talking to someone and catching up with like someone that I haven't talked to in a while, they're like, "Oh, so you're on tour?" And I'm like, I'm not always on tour. It's not like a consistent, like, I'm not always touring. I don't think I would be able to.
I mean, there's a real pressure, obviously, in carrying that mantle and keeping it going. Is there anything you like learn and from doing that and working with Queen for the last dozen or so years that you actually applied to covering songs today?
For sure. I think if I look back on like from when I started with them to sort of what we're doing now, I think I've grown up a bit, like as a singer, as a performer. Like, I feel less is more sometimes now, which is something that I didn't quite have as much of a grasp on when I was younger.
Yeah.
I think in the beginning I was kind of like, look what I can do, you know, like trying to do every high note, every acrobatic thing I could do with every melody, put new notes in, riffs, runs. And now I'm kind of like, you know what, if the emotion calls for it, like if there's a climax of a song where it calls for that, I'll do it because it feels like it needs some extra juice. But I think as a musician, I'm more like comfortable just relying on a good melody. You know what I mean? I don't need to do all this extra shit. I think that's something it's like a maturity thing and a comfort thing.
Is it confidence?
Confidence, comfort, yeah, whatever you want to call it. It's like having some ownership over what I do on stage and not as in need of validation. Did
it take you a while to get comfortable working with Queen and feeling like
in
it was your own?
In the beginning, I was pretty like, it was intense. Like, I think when they asked me to start touring with them, I immediately said yes, because I was like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime.
Do you audition or do they just see you?
No, that we worked. They did the finale of American Idol.
That's right,
and that's where we met. And they just asked after that, which was like, I was gagged. I was like, what? And the first couple of shows were like really scary because I felt underprepared. I didn't get that much rehearsal with them. They didn't need it.
Yeah.
They know the songs.
So is it you just did like a track of theirs that they record for you?
Say it again?
Is it you rehearsing to a track that they record for you?
No, we got together. I mean, we rehearsed for like a week. Like,
that's still like...
Yeah, we rehearsed for a week, and then I did a 2-hour show in which Elton John was the opening act.
Okay, shut the fuck
up. In the
up.
Ukraine.
This is crazy.
Like, it's not the Ukraine. In Ukraine. For like, the very first show we did, it was for like, I think it was for 500,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was
crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I
was nervous for that. I was nervous.
Is there like a moment in that, like, where you realize like that music, it's bigger than everything and anything. Like there's no...
It's so iconic. Yeah.
There'll never be another Queen, you know?
And it's almost like I knew the Queen songs before I knew who Queen were.
Yeah.
You know, like growing up, like hearing We Will Rock You in like a stadium or Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like, you know, the songs are so iconic. And then it's like, as I got a little older and started like, this was like in my early 20s, I started kind of diving into like going back and like learning about bands and stuff because I was all into it. That's when I really understood who Freddie was. Like later.
Now that you've been with the band for 10 years, if you had the opportunity to talk to Freddie, like what would you ask him or what would you talk to him about?
Oh man. I'd want to like have a good cocktail. Like I'd want to like sit down and drink with him. I don't know. I would ask him. I would want to know everything. I just would pick his brain. I'd want to know like where these songs came from, what inspired the songs. I'd want to know about like I'd want to know everything. I would want to know like how he lost his virginity. Like I would ask everything. I would like do the whole. I would ask about his career and his personal life. I would be really nosy, really nosy.
Is it fair to say that this music, like, there could potentially be another you 50 years down the line carrying the mantle again and keeping these songs alive?
That's true.
That's crazy.
I hope someone does. I mean, they're great songs.
I mean, I think the difference is you get to tour with the actual band in 50 years.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And they're really cool. I've learned a lot from them, not only like as a performer and being on stage with them, but also just they're very smart. They've been through it. They're rock stars, you know? They're like from the golden era of music.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like it's such a fantasy, you know, that's the 70s is like my favorite decade musically, and it's just hearing stories, oh yeah, we hung out with Bowie that night. I'm like, that's so crazy, you know?
Do you feel like you're part of the band after all these years, or are you always going to feel like you're just filling a role?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I think it feels like a family. Like we all like we're really comfortable with each other, and it's a lovely like rapport. But I also am very aware of the fact that like I didn't create these songs. These songs existed before I was born. Some of them, the fans. I am a guest in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like I recognize that, and I appreciate it, and I try to go into it every show like kind of with that in mind, because it's important to keep that in mind, especially because the audience, you know, especially when it first started, when we were at the beginning of this journey, it was like I was being looked at with some scrutiny. Like people were like, I don't know, can he? And that's important to like keep in mind, because you don't want to be a cocky asshole to the fans, you know. It's a respect thing. And it's respecting Freddie, and it's respecting their memory of Freddie, and respecting the legacy.